I put that title up there. And no, it's not clickbait. You want to know why? Because while you were busy getting all excited, thinking that big shiny screen smack in the middle of the dash was a sign of a modern, sophisticated car, the automakers were laughing all the way to the bank and cutting corners big time at your expense. You paid top dollar for something that costs them next to nothing to throw in. There's a word for that, and the word is fraud. I'm going to show you in detail exactly why these giant touchscreens are the biggest economic and ergonomic scam the auto industry has ever pulled on the American consumer, and how they're putting your safety at risk just to save a few pennies, ditching the physical buttons that cost them practically nothing. And look, this ain't just some opinion I cooked up over a beer at the garage. This comes from years of studying, testing, and actually getting behind the wheel of these cars. Stick around till the end, because what I'm about to show you is going to completely change the way you look at that screen-loaded dash the next time you walk into a dealership. If this kind of straight talk makes sense to you, go ahead and hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel, because this is where we say what the automakers don't want you to hear. Now, some of you might be thinking this is no big deal, a rich man's problem, a minor gripe. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, it's none of that. Today we're going to call out, and I mean call out in capital letters, a trend that has crept into the interior of American cars, like that nasty humidity that hits you every summer, in Houston or Miami, everywhere, all at once, without asking permission. I'm talking about the absolutely insane, and in my opinion downright criminal, spread of touchscreen displays. Let me tell you something that happened to me personally. I get in a car, it's hot outside, I want to bump the AC down a couple degrees. 2 degrees. So I start digging through menus, submenus, settings buried inside other settings, screen that doesn't respond on the first tap, second try, third try. I was so fed up, I nearly wanted to put that thing in neutral, let it roll down the hill, and walk home. And I already know what some of you are thinking, because I know you guys. You're thinking, you're just another old-timer who can't figure out technology. Go ahead and think that, that's fine, but I'll tell you this. I use computers, smartphones, tablets, anything with a screen, without any trouble whatsoever. The issue isn't the screen. The issue is putting inside a moving vehicle, a system that demands your eyes and full attention, just to do something that used to take half a second, with a physical button. And you know what's worse? What they're selling us as digital evolution is actually one of the biggest cost-cutting operations in the history of the auto industry, dressed up real nice as technological innovation. Engineering of the bottom line, disguised as the future. Because building a dashboard with physical buttons is genuinely expensive. You need the button itself, the mechanism that registers the press, dedicated wiring for each individual function, and a solid physical structure that holds up for years of daily use, without rattling like a bag of loose change. Multiply that across the climate control, the radio, all the vehicle settings, and that production bill adds up fast. So what's cheaper for the automaker? A screen. One single LCD panel, connected by a single cable, to a data hub. Everything else becomes software. Want to add a new feature? No need to design a button, no need to pay a supplier, no need to test a physical part. Just write a few lines of code, and drop an icon on the screen. They are swapping out what I call physical engineering for pixel engineering. Why? Because pixels cost the manufacturer next to nothing. But for you, the consumer, that screen shows up in the final sticker price, like it's pure gold dust. You are paying a premium for something that actually makes their product cheaper to build. Chew on that for a second. The bare, naked truth about the numbers. The question that sticks around is, how much are the automakers actually saving with this? Let's talk money, because money is what really drives the decisions inside the boardrooms of these big manufacturers. If you don't have access to an automaker's internal cost spreadsheets, you might assume a 15-inch screen is an expensive piece of kit. Big mistake. In the world of consumer electronics, at industrial scale, touchscreen panels are manufactured by the millions. A mid-quality, automotive-grade touchscreen panel costs the manufacturer, in high-volume purchases, somewhere between $35 and $75. That's right, under $100, in a big order. Now let's compare that to the old-school way, with real buttons. A rotary headlight switch runs somewhere between $8 and $12. The climate control module, with its display, rubber-coated buttons, and little micromotors, runs around $60. Auxiliary buttons, like the rear defroster, backup sensor, start-stop, figure about $3 to $4 a button. And the most expensive piece of all, the wiring. The wiring harnesses for physical buttons are heavier, more complex, and more expensive to install on the assembly line than a single central cable running to a screen. Add it all up, and putting a car's main functions on quality physical controls can cost the manufacturer somewhere between $275 and $650 more per vehicle, depending on how many controls and what level of quality you're talking about. Sound like small potatoes? Then grab your calculator. If the automaker is building 500,000 units of that model per year, they're pocketing somewhere around $275 million a year in savings. Per year. That's not trimming the fat, that's a 9-figure operation, being run straight out of your pocket. And here's where it gets really ugly. That same manufacturer that just slashed costs on the dashboard walks into the dealership and pitches you that screen as a premium upgrade with some fancy over-the-top name that sounds like it belongs on a space shuttle. Digital Vision Pro Max Ultimate. And they tack on another $700, $1,100, sometimes even $1,500 on the window sticker for it. They save money at the factory and then charge you like they're doing you a favor. A sweetheart deal for them, dressed up highway robbery for you. And speaking of getting robbed, here comes the part that no one at these automakers wants you to know about, the very real danger that screen represents while you're behind the wheel. There's another element I need to highlight here, because this is where the fraud stops being just financial and starts being genuinely dangerous. Muscle memory is the foundation of safety behind the wheel. With physical buttons, you know exactly where the volume control is, where the hazard light button is, where the AC control is, all of that without taking your eyes off the road for even a split second. Your fingers learn the way on their own. It's automatic, it's instinctive, it's safe. On a flat screen, none of that exists. There's no texture, no depth, no tactile reference whatsoever. You are forced to look at the screen to know where you're touching. And looking at the screen means taking your eyes off the road. Out here on American roads, where somebody swings a car door open without looking, where a motorcyclist comes out of nowhere, and where a pothole opens up in the asphalt without any warning, taking your eyes off the road for 2 seconds can change your life forever. The road safety studies from 2026 are alarming. Distraction time for adjusting basic functions inside the car has tripled in vehicles with fully touchscreen dashboards compared to those with physical controls. Tripled. And the cruel irony is that the automakers themselves pack these cars full of electronic driver assistance systems, all those ADAS features, backup cameras, lane departure warnings, automatic emergency braking, all designed to prevent accidents, while at the same time forcing you to dig through menus just to do something as simple as turning on the rear defroster on a cold winter morning in Minneapolis. And there's one more problem nobody is talking about openly. The mechanical engine in a square-body pickup from the 80s still runs today, the same way it did when it rolled off the assembly line. A well-kept classic car lasts for decades. Good mechanics age with dignity. But what's going to happen to these giant screens 15 years from now? The brutal summer sun, the extreme heat inside a car, parked on the blacktop in Phoenix in July, where interior temps can easily hit 160 degrees Fahrenheit, combined with the natural degradation of electronic components, is going to make these screens fail, freeze up, or just go completely dark. And in 2026, we're already seeing the first signs of this, happening in cars that are only 8 or 9 years old. Infotainment systems that won't boot up, screens with dead pixels, software updates that lock up the entire system, and turn the car into a digital brick. The real problem is that in a modern car, if the screen dies, you lose the radio, you lose the GPS, you lose climate control, and in many cases you can't even adjust the volume. The entire vehicle becomes hostage to a single electronic component of questionable quality. A $55,000 truck has become dependent on something that performs worse than a $200 Amazon Fire tablet. Now let me give you some examples of who's getting it right and who's getting it dead wrong, in my opinion. There are brands that have crossed the line, and there are brands that are actually listening to the driver. First, the villains, or how not to design a car. Number 1. Tesla Model 3 and Model Y. The champions of extreme and irresponsible minimalism. To adjust the direction of the air vents on the climate control, yes, the actual vents, you have to go into a menu, drag your finger across the screen, and hope you hit it right. It's ridiculous, it's slow, and above all it's dangerous. And with the refreshed Tesla Model 3, they went even further into the unthinkable. They removed the turn signal stalk entirely, and replaced it with touch-sensitive buttons on the steering wheel. If you're making a turn at a roundabout, and need to signal your exit, that button might be rotated downward, depending on where your wheel is positioned. An ergonomic nightmare that no one driving in rush hour traffic on the 405 is going to put up with in the real world. Number 2. Volkswagen with the Golf 8 and the ID.4. This is where they committed the cardinal sin of automotive design. They pulled the physical climate control buttons and replaced them with touch-sensitive surfaces below the screen. And worst of all, those surfaces had absolutely no illumination at night. Trying to turn up the heat at 11 o'clock at night was like trying to find the TV remote that slipped between the couch cushions in the dark. The wave of complaints was so massive that Volkswagen itself had to publicly apologize and promise to bring back physical buttons. Now we wait and see if they actually follow through. Now for the heroes, the ergonomic resistance. Number 1. Mazda CX-5 and Mazda 3. These are the ones holding the line. Mazda made a gutsy decision and chose to disable their screen as a touchscreen while the vehicle is in motion. All control is handled through a physical rotary dial on the center console, intuitive, precise, and without ever pulling your eyes off the road. Their philosophy is straightforward. Eyes on the road, hands on the wheel. Full marks to the engineers in Hiroshima. Number 2. Honda Civic. Current generation. After a rough run without proper buttons in the previous gen, Honda had the humility to admit the mistake and fix it. The current model has rotary knobs with real mechanical feedback and a satisfying click that feels like something off a quality piece of audio gear. It's intuitive, it's got character, and it inspires confidence. Number 3. Porsche, at least partially. They've moved heavily towards screens, no question about it, but the 911 still has a physical volume knob and keeps a handful of critical controls as real buttons. They know that a driver pushing hard through a tight corner doesn't have the time or the patience to hunt through a touchscreen menu. And that shows that when a brand truly respects the driver, common sense beats the trend every single time. And now I've put together for you the timeline of the vanishing button, how we went from total physical control all the way to the touchscreen chaos we're living with today. Number 1. 1990. The golden age of ergonomics. Cars like the BMW 5 Series E34 were designed with the driver as the absolute priority. Buttons with distinct textures, clear functions, everything positioned in a logical place. You could operate nearly the whole dash in the dark without ever taking your eyes off the road. That was engineering built for people who actually drive. Number 2. 2001, the iDrive experiment. BMW introduced the single rotary controller. It got hammered by critics at the time for being too complex, but at least it kept physical control in the driver's hand, without forcing anyone to stare at a screen. Number 3. 2012, the turning point, the Tesla Model S. A 17-inch screen, controlling everything. The entire industry stopped, looked over, and thought, if they can save money like that, and the customer buys it with a smile, then we're doing it too. And that's when the damage started. Number 4. 2020. Full screen takeover. Mercedes unveiled the Hyperscreen, a dashboard that is literally glass, from one end to the other. Crystal replaced leather, replaced wood, and in my opinion, replaced common sense most of all. Number 5. 2024. The Euro NCAP rebellion. Faced with a rise in distraction-related accidents inside vehicles, the European Safety Organization announced that starting in 2026, they would begin docking points and safety ratings for any car that doesn't have physical buttons, for critical functions like turn signals, wipers, hazard lights, and the horn. In other words, even the most respected safety body in the industry put its foot down. Too much screen is a danger. Number 6. 2026. The return of common sense. Some brands are already backing up and bringing physical climate control buttons back after being buried in customer complaints. The market is finally hearing what consumers have been yelling about for years. And speaking of real-world headaches, there's another side to this story that needs to be told. On top of everything we've already covered, these in-car screens are a constant visual problem in everyday driving. When the sun hits that screen directly, the glare is so intense, you can barely read what's on it. They collect fingerprints at an insane rate and make the dashboard look like a kid's tablet left on the breakfast table after a sticky morning. And at night, they throw off that intense blue light that strains your eyes and kills your night vision, which is exactly the moment when you need to see what's happening out there on the road more than any other. It is a direct assault on the most basic principles of visual safety behind the wheel. And people still out here thinking this is luxury. A dashboard built with quality materials, ages with dignity, with character, with history. A dashboard that's nothing but a black slab of glass, when the car is off, has no soul whatsoever. It looks like a television set with wheels, not a work of mechanical engineering. Here's the bottom line. The proliferation of screens in car dashboards is the triumph of the accounting department over the engineering department. No matter how they dress it up as modernity and innovation, at its core, it is a cost-cutting strategy that compromises your safety and the long-term durability of the vehicle. A good design is one that lets the driver focus on what actually matters, which is driving, and not scrolling through menus and submenus to accomplish something that used to take half a second. The car of the day. I chose the Saab 9-5, first generation. Why? Because of the legendary night panel. Inspired by aviation cockpit design, when you pressed that button, every single light on the dashboard went dark, except the speedometer. If something failed, or you were running low on fuel, only that information would light up. It was the triumph of real ergonomics. Eliminate distraction, so the driver keeps their eyes on the road. It is the absolute opposite of today's screen fraud. That was engineering designed by human beings, for human beings, not by a marketing department chasing a quarterly target. I've been wanting to make this video for a long time. It's been rattling around in my head for quite a while, and it finally made it out. I hope you enjoyed it, and that it makes you stop and think before you get dazzled by the next giant screen on a showroom floor. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. That genuinely means a lot to me. Drop your comment down below on this topic. I'm really interested in hearing what you think. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you didn't, go ahead and hit dislike too. Honesty is always welcome around here. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. And if you really want to help out, share this video with that buddy who just bought a brand new screen-loaded car and has no idea what he got himself into. I think I've said everything I needed to say. All that's left is your comment, and I'll be looking for you back here on Vroomly Auto. God bless, and I'll see you next time.